this lesson, we will build bone objects for the creature's mandibles and claws. Let's start with the mandibles. We'll go ahead and bring back our model. And let's take a look at something really interesting. We'll press F3 to take a look at our texture. If you look closely, once the jaw closes, we could almost use the mandibles to form a type of face shield, which is super cool. We can use the mandibles as a way to protect the mouth. And that's super exciting. You can get really creative this way. Alright, so with that in mind, now we're ready to rig the mandibles. Alright, we'll go ahead and jump in. We'll grab our bone tools. Let's go ahead and get started by not clicking on the head bone. Remember, we'll click near, and when we're ready to link the root back to that bone object, we'll do so. So we'll create our root, and then we'll create a bone object for the next section, and then finally a nub object. Let's now go ahead and grab our root, turn on bone edit mode, and let's go ahead and bring this up in our Z and Y axes if we're in world mode. Just got to make sure that this pivots from the right point. Great. Alright, taking a look at the next section, this looks pretty good. So we can go ahead and turn off bone edit mode and move back to our perspective view. Now with the root still selected, let's go ahead and translate this over in the x-axis. Press F3 to go back to edge mode, and let's start to reorient this bone. Now you'll notice that in gimbal mode, again, we run into an issue where the rotation isn't ideal. So we could always freeze our transforms, or we can switch our rotate gizmos mode to local. Either way, we'll have to freeze our transforms, but this might be a faster way to reorient the chain using local mode. So I'll go ahead and start to twist this around in the x-axis. From here, we'll just double check to make sure that the placement of this is correct. So we'll get some really nice looking deformations. I might twist this in the y-axis locally. So let's go ahead and swivel that around. Looks pretty good. I might go ahead and add a little bit more of a twist in the x. And I think we're fine. Okay, let's go ahead and shrink the size of both bone objects. That way they're easier to select. They don't have to be so large. And we can work with a very simple max script to do that. Now before we start to resize them, let's head over to our modify panel. Let's take a look at something. Even though we see a size of 0.3, right now the unit measurement is set to centimeters, but max is still working in meters. So if we wanted a decent size, we might go ahead and work with about a value of 10 if we were to use a max script to resize these. We could always just go in and put in, let's say, 0.1 here, but if we're using a max script, we'll have to use the value that max would consider. Alright, so grabbing both bone objects, not the nub, because we'll have to recreate that so it's not skewed when that gets resized. So we're going to right click at the bottom left hand corner where we find the listener section, and we'll choose open listener window. Let's go ahead and make sure we clear out all text. You could always press Control A and the script field and then hit delete. We'll now type in $.width. Great, and you can see that I'm using all caps. I'll go ahead and make sure that I'm using low caps here. And we'll have this equal to 10. Alright, sweet. Now, when we hit enter on our number pad, you can see that we have brought in the width of both selected bone objects. Now what's cool is that using this type of variable here, whatever we have selected, as long as those objects have a width parameter, the size of 10 would be applied to those objects in our selection. We need to do something about the height next. Let's go ahead and take care of that. We'll go to the next line and we'll type in $.height. And we'll have this equal to 10. Let's go ahead and again hit enter on our number pad to go ahead and run our code. And now you can see that the bone size for the mandible is decent. Sweet. Let's go ahead and grab the nub object, delete it. We'll grab that end bone and we'll choose create end to recreate the nub. Alright, sweet. So from here we can go ahead and rename our bone objects. So the root, that will be renamed to bn underscore L underscore mandible underscore A01. Let's go ahead and copy that. We'll grab the next bone, paste, and that will be B. So we're just naming these alphabetically. Now when we get to the nub, we can go ahead and work with the same name as its parent. So I'll just go ahead and copy that, go to the nub object, and paste. So instead of BN, we'll work with BE. All right, cool. So it's about time to mirror this across. Let's go ahead and grab our move gizmo. Let's make sure it's set to world. And let's go ahead and copy the x-axis. All right, from here, let's go ahead and press Control Page Down so we can grab the entire hierarchy. We'll now go ahead and choose Mirror, and choose OK. We'll grab just the root. If you need to, feel free to hide your model. So with the root selected, we'll now go to our x-axis here and we'll put in the reciprocal of what we've copied. Beautiful stuff. So if we bring our model back, you can see everything is nice and clean. Okay, this would be a good time to just go in and link our roots to our head bone. So with them both selected, I might go ahead and hide the model. Going to grab the link tool and link. With the root still selected, we'll press Control Page Down, grab both systems. We'll go ahead and right-click and choose Freeze Transform. Let's click on Yes, and now let's go ahead and have them stored in our envelope layer. All right, great. It's a good idea to check this from time to time just to make sure that everything is getting stored in the right layer. It looks good. All right, so it's now time to rig the claws. Now, I'd like to point out that you may or may not use them, but it's good to have control just in case, because you never know. If anything, you can add a bit of a subtle touch to the animation by animating these claws. All right, let's go ahead and head over to our front view. This is going to be really simple to create. Go ahead and choose Create Bones. From there, we'll go ahead and create a bone object here. Let's make sure not to click on an existing bone chain. We'll now go to move back to our perspective view. All right. Now, let's say we go ahead and take this object and move this over to the front leg. All right, sweet. That was almost perfect. Not quite. Let's go ahead and just translate that back. We'll go ahead and grab our rotate gizmo and add a bit of a twist so it fits nicely inside of the geometry. I'll go ahead and grab the move tool, just translate that over a bit more. All right, great. So this looks nice. If anything, you can go ahead and grab Bone Edit mode and bring this up in the X and Z axes a bit more. All right, sweet. I think that's going to work out well. So once we've managed to do that, feel free to resize this if you like. I don't think it's necessary because it's easy to select between both chains. So I kind of like the size that we're working with here. For a name, we could always go ahead and take the name of its parent. Let's go ahead and grab that bone object. We'll go ahead and copy it. It's BN tarsus. We're going to grab the claw, paste, and for a suffix, we'll add underscore claw 01. All right, sweet. Let's go ahead and copy this name. Grab the nub object, paste, and instead of BN, that will be BE. All right, perfect. So from here, what we could do is go ahead and take this object, we'll grab its nub, and we'll go ahead and clone this with Control V as a copy. Let's go ahead and just move this over to the next claw. Move that in place. I'll go ahead and press the Z key to zoom in. Might translate that in the Y-axis, in world mode, translate it over and the x-axis. That looks pretty good. Looks like we might need to add a bit of a twist to fix the orientation. I might go to more of a top view here and move this in the y and x axes, and then we can go ahead and add our twist. We can grab our rotate gizmo and just kind of twist this around. Alright, much better. Now with these still selected, it might be a good idea to resize them. Let's go ahead and head back over to our listener window. Let's go ahead and highlight our code with Control A and hit Enter on our keyboard. We can work with that same value of 10 that we used for our width and height, because that works out very well. But not for our nub. You can see exactly why we left the nub out of our selection last time when we resized the object. No worries. We can go ahead and delete the nub, go ahead and grab our root bone, and choose Create End. Now let's go ahead and choose Bone Edit Mode. We'll switch our Move tool to, let's say, Local Mode. Let's go ahead and bring up the nub object. From here, we'll go ahead and translate it over in the X and Y axes. This looks good. Okay, so once we've managed to do that, I'll go ahead and turn off Bone Edit Mode. Let's go ahead and rename these objects. So instead of Petio, of course, we'll change that to Gaster. So I'll pause the video and do that for both objects. Alrighty, so both have been renamed. Now keep in mind that the suffix of the root, when we cloned it, had a 02 at the end, and we just want to clean that up by putting in a 01 so we know that this object is needed and it is unique. Alrighty. And then for the nub, of course, since we had to recreate that, we just want to make sure that we have that renamed with the correct name. Alright, so this looks good. Now before we go ahead and link these objects, we need to go ahead and mirror them across. So we could always start with this object here. With that selected, let's go ahead and switch our Move Gizmo to World Mode. Let's go ahead and copy our x-axis. Now let's go ahead and click on Mirror. Alright, sweet. It looks like I've not selected the nub when I go ahead and clicked on the mirror tool, so I'll go ahead and grab that. And I'd like to show you something else. If you wanted to, you could also go ahead and grab the other bone object as well. That will also mirror. So we can now go ahead and click on Mirror. You can see both objects have been mirrored. Alright, sweet. So right now we can go ahead and click on OK. We can go ahead and take care of the bone that's connected to the limb of the gaster. Alright, now with that selected, let's go ahead and use that reciprocal in our x-axis. So that's going to be negative 4.9 on my side. Alright, sweet. Let's go ahead and take care of the next object. I'll go ahead and grab the original bone, grab its x-axis, copy, go to our mirrored object, paste, and we'll use the reciprocal. So that's negative 4.48. There we go. That looks great. Let's make sure that these objects are now renamed. So again, we're getting rid of the L, replacing that with an R, and we're getting rid of the suffix mirrored. I'll pause the video and take care of that. Alrighty, so all objects have been renamed. It's now time to do some linking work. Let's go ahead and head over to our layer manager, just so we could hide our model. And we're simply linking to the tarsus bone. Of course, those objects here that we've just created should follow that bone object. So let's go ahead and make sure we link all four. Alright, great. And from there, we could go ahead and select each root. Let's go ahead and press Control Page Down. We'll now Alt-right click and choose Freeze Transform. With them still selected, we'll go ahead and grab our envelope layer and add those objects. Alright, sweet. So that finishes up our work on the mandibles as well as on our claws. As you can see here, everything's moving just fine. Super exciting. So our skeleton is coming together. We only have a few areas to rig. Let's say we go ahead and move on to the arms in the next lesson.